of our life. It may be different from person to person, I'm sure, but still, it's a which we always say the risk has to be managed, but this risk, of course, I don't think anyone has thought of and managed in any manner. So we go through this process. I'm sure like everyone going through, I'm sure like mentally some concerns, what's going to happen to exams, how much we can study, and concentration, focus, all these are concerns. But to be honest, the exams will be done with a little delay, I'm sure, right? So we don't have to worry much. We could start the classes as we thought today on online platform where we will do the recording of classes and upload as we discussed at the beginning so that you can go through the notes as well as the question whatever we attempt in the class. So make your time more focused from today onwards. It's a limited option and there are little we can do about it. Maybe over time things could be better and then we'll be back to the normal situation. Anyway, we'll start with some hopes. I think the last class where we discussed about the mergers and acquisition, we discussed to great extent the mergers and acquisitions. Maybe that we have to look at past paper questions, which we can do with the case study question papers. Today, what I thought to start on a new topic, it's portfolio management and CAPM. You may be provided with a tute, right? So online, that's what they're understanding. So when I refer some of the notes, some of the things, it's from the tute. So I will refer when I discussed the page number. So when you get an opportunity to look at the tute, you could see that page number and understand what I'm talking. Okay? It's first time I'm also doing a online, purely online, without no students in the class. So maybe there are pluses, minuses. We should accept, it's not only pluses, it's minuses. We have to accept and go from there and improve on it. Can we start on? It's the portfolio management. So the question is, what is portfolio management? Portfolio means collection of anything, right? So in just English understanding is the collection of anything. So you could see it can be investments, our subject matter, what we're going to talk about, or even any portfolio of situations, portfolio of things, portfolio assets, all will fall into that. So please understand, portfolio means collection of something. In terms of our area, financial management, portfolio management, we are going to look at mainly the investment portfolio, right? So investments are of various types. So we will have to decide what collection of investments we are going to have. So just to start with, what are types of investment we are aware of? Types of investment, if you take, there are various types. If in the classroom, I would be definitely asking each and every one of you to contribute and say what are investments you are aware of. So today also you could think on that before looking at it, what are types of investment you are aware of. I'm sure everyone knows fixed deposits. We'll start with the simple, knowledgeable ones. We would have discussed many times in the past, but specific to this topic, fixed deposits, government securities, which is treasury bills and treasury bonds. Treasury bill, treasury bonds. Then shares. Shares you can have listed or unlisted shares. Then we can have unit trusts, and even properties. Even properties, people consider that as investments. Even vehicles, some other people think the vehicles are also investments because it appreciates in value most of the time in Sri Lankan context. And gold, again the instrument point of view, debentures. So you would see that there are a lot of types of investments everyone could have. Everyone could have to put their money in. In our syllabus or this portfolio management, we are going to concentrate onto the main investments, say government securities and shares. So our discussion will be falling between government securities and shares. Even though others are also investment types, in our portfolio management they have taken these two as investments and how to manage that in the corporate world. But the same knowledge what you are going to learn could be used even for other management of investments. Okay, so I believe that you have got an idea. These are types of investment generally you can have. Portfolio management, we will be more concentrating on government securities or shares. So you could have that. And even some people say even project investments are also type of investment. Okay, so our portfolio management will talk about government securities and shares investment, and it could be applied to even project investment. Okay, so you would see when you see the TUT, the first page itself, you will see the difference. Then you take page number 1, there are factors. There are factors in deciding the choice of investments. There are factors which have to be influencing the choice of the investment for anybody. Generally we talk about corporates, companies. When the company is going to invest in anything, they will be influenced by many factors. So what are those factors? What are the ingredients or factors which will tell whether to invest in this instrument or the other instrument? For example, one, you might see the return. First thing, if you want to invest in anything, it can be government security, fixed deposit, share market, property, anything, any type of investment. We would like to know what's the return the investment is going to give me. So that is one factor. Second factor which will determine your investment decision will be your risk. The risk you are going to take by investing in this instrument or the investment type. The risk is the other important aspect which will affect your decision making. Third, the security. Securities, for example, if you invest in property, all of us know that property, when you invest, your security is the property itself. So that you have the money invested in a identifiable, tangible asset so that you can sell that and realize. So there is security involved there. Maybe government securities or fixed deposit we talk, those are also instruments where you invest money. The security is the paper, maybe today's context is electronic form, a document, which doesn't have really a security of asset backing that. So most of the time the instrument that we talk don't have similar nature of security. But if it has debentures which are secure debentures, the secure debenture will underlie some assets so that you are safeguarded. So security one aspect which will tell whether to invest in this instrument or not. Then the growth aspect of your investment. What extent the growth your growth can be expected in any investment, you can see there. Then your liquidity. Liquidity. If you see your investment, whether it's liquid enough. It's liquid enough. When I say liquidity, what do you mean by this? Able to buy or sell freely. Able to buy or sell freely. If you can buy or sell that instruments in the marketplace freely without any difficulty or without any losses significantly, then it's liquid asset. So if you say in Sri Lankan context, most of the time the government securities are freely sellable. So there is a very good liquidity in the market. Shares, most of the shares are liquid enough so that you can buy and sell shares in the market anytime. There are few company shares may not be sufficiently liquid in the market, which means if you want to sell it on Monday morning and you go to market, you may not be able to find a buyer to sell your shares. So that's the problem with liquidity on some of the assets. So please note that liquidity means you are able to buy or sell without much of a difficulty or without much of a losses into your asset. So liquidity. So these are the key factors which will decide your investment choice. Okay? So please note that any investment as a corporate, before you making the investment, you have got to think about these factors. And these factors will influence whether I should put my money here or somewhere else. So please remember that. Then the relationship between two factors, risk and return. I'm sure we know that, risk and return. What is the relationship? Any investment, risk and return, what is the relationship? It's positive. What do you mean by that? If the investment risk is higher, the expected return is also higher. Please remember, the terminology is expected return is higher. So when you see the risk is lower, your expected return is also low. So this is a positive relationship between these two variables. Risk and return, the relationship is positive relationship. So which we have discussed many a times earlier also, risk and return have positive relationship. It can be positive, it can go up, it can go down. Both cases, return also goes accordingly. Okay? Then I think in the TUTE, page number 2, page number 2, for example, you have an investment, the return, the expected return, and there are probabilities. You will see that one investment, say one example, X investment type. That investment could give you various returns. 8%, 10%, 12%, 14%. The investment could be giving you various returns. It's not a guaranteed one return. Return can vary 8%, 10%, 12 and 14. There is a possibility or the probability also, say 20%, 20%, 20%, 20% or maybe 40%. Right? So there are 4 return types or returns. Probabilities are there. Already remember that probability total is 1. So when you say an investment giving you return, possible returns, various form, 8% to 14%, you can get return. But what is the possibility of getting each amount of return? 8% possibility is 20%, 14%, 40%. So you have multiple things. Okay? So when you have that, what they say, small correction you may make it, because otherwise it's not practical. 8%, 40%, others are 20%. So total is 1. So any investment, for example, a share investment, the investment gives you various return. So 8% return possibility is 40%. You will get 40% return, or 40% chance of getting 8%. 20% chance is therefore 10% return. So each one has that. So as you know, any expected information and probability is given, what you calculate, expected value. Expected value. How do you calculate expected value? You multiply return with probability. So you can add 3.2, 2%, 2.4, 2.8. Total is 10.4. I believe that's number, right? Expected return is 10.4. So that same investment, the expected value return is 10.4, which means average return. I think we discussed this terminology called expected. Probabilities, whenever they are given you probabilities, you need to calculate something called expected value. That means the values that were given multiplied by probability will give you expected value. The expected value is actually the average return. Average return. So please note that the investment average return can be 10.4. Even though it can give 8%, it can give 14%, but average return what we expect, 10.4%. Okay, that's basically page number 2 explains you. Okay, so the expected value is the average return. Statistically, we can call that mean. Statistically, we can call mean, which is the average return. So mean is the average return statistically formed. 10.4 is that average return. From the same numbers, we could calculate standard deviation. I'm sure all of you all would have learned somewhere in statistics at the beginning of the chartered syllabus, standard deviation. Right? So you could calculate standard deviation. You can look at the TUT page number 2. TUT page number 2. Standard deviation. It is actually the average variation. Average variation. Standard deviation means average variation. Now when we said your return is 10.4, expected return is 10.4, what do you mean by standard deviation or average variation is your actual return can be different to your expected return. Actual return can be 9%, actual return can be 12%, anything. So on statistically, what we are trying to say, what is the average variation? Average variation in this example, right, so you can calculate in the TUT, for example, you can look at it. Right? Actually, the numbers that we have taken here is little different to the numbers that is in the TUT. So you can look at the TUT anyway. So according to TUT, your mean is 11%. Average variation or standard deviation is 1.84%. So what do you mean by this? Mean is 11%. Average variation is 1.84. That means actual your expected return can be 11%, that's your average return, plus or minus 1.84%. 11% plus or minus 1.84%, which means 11% minus 1.84 to 11% plus 1.84. So the actual return could be 11 minus 1.84, 11 plus 184. So your range of your return going to be within that range. Even though average return is 11, but it can be in the range of 11, 1 minus 84 is how much? 9.16 to 12.84. So this is the range of your return. Your range of return is 9.16 to 12.84. But average return is 11%, average variation 1.84. I believe that you have got these statistics correct, right? So this is just an understanding purposes. Your investment return, when there is a probability given, your investment return can be the expected return, what you calculate. That is the expected return from that investment opportunity. But that return can vary between 9.16 to 12.84. How do you know that? You calculate something called standard deviation, which is in the tube of the calculation. I'm not going in detail so much on statistics. Standard deviation, you calculate that, gives you the average variation. That's a plus or minus of your mean average. So your actual return can be within this range. I believe that you are clear, okay? If you see page number 3, you will realize that when we say the relation between risk and return, we earlier mentioned, if the risk is higher, the expected return is also higher. What do you mean by this? If you feel an investment opportunity what you have got as higher risk, as an investor, I would like to get more return. Not that I am going to be given that. It's only my expectation. Please understand this terminology, expectation. It's not must you will be getting higher return. It's the expectation of thing. So higher risk investments, generally the investor feel, since I am taking higher risk, I should get higher return. I should get. Not that you are going to be getting. I should get. So that's the expectation. Reality, the investments could give you higher return, as you think. Sometimes your expected return may not come. Sometimes you will lose your capital. That's why it's called high risk. Right? When the risk is higher, we always say you get higher return. High risk, high return. It's only an expectational thing. Whenever high risk investments are there, I would like to get high return. This is your higher expectation. You may get, may not get. So higher risk doesn't mean you are guaranteed with high return. I am explaining this word. You are not guaranteed with higher return. You are only expecting higher return. You are expecting higher return. Not that you are going to be getting that. Sometimes you realize high risk investment you make, you may not get return. You may lose your capital. Say stock market. Everyone knows that stock market investments are comparatively high risk investment. It's not like fixed deposits, it's not like government securities where you put your money to great extent, you are safeguarded with your capital and you get return also. But in share market, your investment opportunities give you high risk, but at the same time, high returns you might get sometimes you lose your capital. Not getting return, you don't get capital also. That's why it's called high risk, high return. High risk is you may lose your capital, which means you are going to have disappointing results also sometime. So please keep that in mind. Then, page number 3, diversification. Diversification as a means of reducing risk. Diversification as a means of reducing risk. What do you mean by diversification? What do you mean by diversification? You invest in various opportunities. You don't put all of your monies in one investment category. You say, for example, you are 100 or 1 million rupees, that 1 million can be invested in government securities, treasury bill or government security, fixed deposit, share market, properties, various types that we discussed earlier. So you have 1 million, you can share. Put 100,000 in shares, 50,000 in fixed deposit, like that you can divide. That is called diversification. If you have 1 million and you put fixed deposit only, then no diversification. So what do you mean by diversification as a means of reducing risk? By investing in various opportunities, you are reducing your risk. You are reducing your risk. So if you are given an example, say 10 million rupees, 10 million rupees. If you want to reduce risk, what you can do, you can diversify your investment portfolio. If you have 10 million rupees, you can diversify your investment portfolio. You don't put the 10 million in one investment, you put it in many investments. Example, say government securities, I put 2 million. I believe that is secured and liquid and guaranteed with reasonable return. So government security, I put 2 million. Fixed deposits, I put another 2 million. A little risk compared to government securities, but I get better return also. So I put it 2 million. And then maybe I would decide, okay, I'll put debentures, another 3 million. So I put my 3 million rupee in debenture where I get better return and different nature of cash flows I will get. So I put 3 million. Another 3 million I got, I put into shares. So I take 10 million investment, various categories. So if you take this investment portfolio, you know that your risk and return, actually expected return, are varies. Risk is, I just put it into low, medium, higher. Government securities, no risk. Government security, no risk. Fixed deposit, low risk. Comparatively low risk. Debentures, I would say medium risk. There is a risk involved, debentures, comparatively. Shares, high risk. So your investment portfolio, the collection of investments, have categories of various investments, and as low risk, medium risk, high risk. Similarly, you expect a return. Just look at it. Here, no risk, but you expect a lower return. Say 9% return, you are fine with it. Why? Your risk is lower. So you get lower return. FD, comparatively, say medium return. And FD debentures, also you can say medium return. You expect. Again, word expect. Share market, higher return. Again, expect. So your investment portfolio, you have built 10 million like this. I have various investments, various risk types, various returns. This is my portfolio. I was given 10 million rupees. I have now put my money into various things. What I would like to ask here, whether I have taken reasonable precautions to reduce my risk. The answer is yes. Why? I didn't put my entire 10 million in one investment type. If I put entire 10 million in one investment type, I am highly exposed, that investment. There's a saying generally in investment markets, market says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You have 20 eggs, don't put the 20 eggs into one basket or one bag. You can divide into many bags. So even if one bag drops and every egg get damaged, the other bags are remaining. So always remember that your investments are the same thing. You divide among various types so that you are safeguarded. Even if, say, for example, share market crashes. Share market crashes. You all know the present situation in the country or world. Share market is crashed. Stock market closed from March 20th. Yes, March 20th till today. Share market in Sri Lanka is closed. Market is closed. Right? So it's very, very strange phenomenon you might think, but it's the reality. Today the market doesn't work. Nobody can buy, nobody can sell shares. No liquidity in the market. Nobody is in the market. So the share market, if you're invested, right, that's the risky thing. Why that happened? Because the market started falling with the coronavirus. People started selling their shares, especially the foreign selling has started. Then the government wants to stop that unnecessary panicking, so stop the market. So even when the market starts again, they will have enough breakers. That means every 30 minutes they will observe the market condition, and the prices fall below 5% or more than 5%, market will be stopped. Again, they will take another half an hour, again allow. So this is how it's going to be, even if they start market tomorrow or Monday or whatever. But please understand, that's the concern. So you need to be very, very mindful where my investments are. If I take high risk investment, I'm taking the high risk. Same time, I take only for 3 million high risk. I didn't put the entire 10 million in 3 million high risk ones. I have put 2 million in government security. No risk at all. Government securities will not default your investment. You get your money back. So therefore, you are very much happy that, okay, my investment is safeguarded. Maybe I get lower return. That's fine, but I'm safeguarded. Okay? So please note that this is just an understanding of what do you mean by diversification. So any investments, anywhere you can diversify. Anywhere you can diversify. If you depend on one, you have problem. If you depend on one product, if you depend on one service, if you depend on one investment, you are understanding that you are going to face a point in time. Right? So please note that this diversification terminology can be applied in any angle, any concepts, any perspective. What do you mean by that? You are reducing risk by putting your investment in various opportunities. Or even, say, a country. As a country, always remember that our country was predominantly, we were agricultural based, right? But later we got shifted to garments. So we have been getting most of the income from garments. And then we had another important income source, tourism. So these were the income sources mainly we are having in the country. But with this crisis, we have got to think again, what are the new thinking? Right? Are we going to depending on tourism? Because last year also with the Easter attack, almost many months or a year, we suffered. As a country, tourism companies, hotels, restaurants, or even any business, malls, went through a difficult time. No business, or lesser business. Similarly, now we are going through again this year. So the tourism again next how many months, we don't know. How many months we are going to lose. So there is a disadvantage if you depend on one more. If you diversify into many segments, many sectors, then our risk is low. So I believe that you are better knowledgeable now the word diversification. Diversification. In diversifying, the portfolio theory works on a concept called relationship. Based on the relationship between the investments, you have to decide the diversification. So what do you mean by that? What they say, the relationship between relationships between investments could be positive, negative, no relationship. In other words, positive correlation, negative correlation, no correlation or no relationship. So you would see that between the investments, for example, you take the share market. You have 290 companies in share market. 290 companies are investment opportunity for all of us. That 290 company investments, there is a relationship among them. There are some investments, they have positive correlation. When I say relationship, the investments return, what is relationship? Example, say commercial bank shares. Commercial bank shares. And Sampath Bank shares. Commercial bank share return, Sampath Bank share return. Is there any relationship? Do you think there can be any relationship between these two? Can be? Yes. They have positive relationship. What do you mean positive? If you say commercial bank returns are going to increase, generally, Sampath Bank returns are also going to increase. Why? Both are in same industry. Both are in same industry. Maybe the return increase percentage can vary. Commercial bank return increase by 5%, Sampath Bank return increase by 2%. Can be. But both will increase. If you take present context, if you say banks are going to have problem or the business going to drop, both banks will drop. You can't say only commercial will lose money, Sampath will make money. No, it's not possible. Because that's the nature of the industry, of any industry. So that industry companies will have similar relationship. That is positive relationship. So you will see that in 290 companies stock market, there are some investments have positive relationship in the returns. You don't say commercial and Sampath are related. No, that's not the meaning here. Commercial and Sampath returns have positive relationship. If commercial bank return going up, practically Sampath return also goes up. Why? Same industry. May not be the same amount of money they make, but they have a very common knowledge that they will both go up. Similarly, HNB, Pan Asia, any bank you take, all are in same industry. So please understand, positive correlation is, for example, commercial bank and Sampath Bank. both have positive relationship in terms of their return. Negative correlation. What do you mean negative? X company return goes up, returns, X company return goes up, Y company return comes down. X return goes up, Y returns comes down. If you have this relationship, what is that? Negative relationship or negative correlation. You might have some company in the stock market or even anywhere have a negative relationship. One goes up, one comes down. Possible. You might think, okay, how it happens? It happens. There may be some businesses will be doing good, at the same time some companies will do down. There is a relationship. Not that it's like a coincidence. It is how the relationship is. Those days they say, like for example, ice cream manufacturing company and umbrella manufacturing company. Ice cream manufacturing company sales goes up during a warmer climate. Similarly, same time, you will see the umbrella demand may come down. So it's opposite the other way also. So this is the negative relationship. One goes up, one comes down. So please note that this is the second type of relationship, negative. Out of 290 companies in stock market, there can be some investments have a negative relationship. When you observe their profits for a couple of years, one company goes up, other company comes down. Okay, there is a relationship. Third, no relationship. Most of the companies in stock market or anywhere, you realize that their relationship is negative, no relationship. Which means 1 year you will say one company does well, other company lose money. Just because they have done for that year, if you say that no, they have a negative relationship, next period or next quarter, opposite will happen. Which means they don't have any relationship. Say, example, hospital company, say Navaloka or Durdans or Lanka Hospital, Asiri, Central, any hospital. Their profitability goes up. Their profitability goes up. So when the profitability goes up, what happens to the hotels? Hotel profits. Cinnamon hotels or Kingsbury or any hotels. Their profit, what happens? Hospital on the one side, hotels on the other side. Is there any relationship in their profits? Just because hospital profits are going up, hotel profit will go up or come down? No. No relationship. That is a third correlation. So you have three types of correlation between the investments. One, they have a positive relationship. There may be enough investments, you will see they have positive relationship. So when you say positive relationship, it could be example, banks or even a milk manufacturing company or maybe vehicle importers, all the vehicle importers, those companies have positive relationship. Which means when their profit goes up, all the vehicle import company profit goes up. When the profit drops, all profit drops. So please note that there are a set of relationship company, positive, negative relationships, no relationship. Now why do we need to know this? In portfolio management, what they try to say, you have to know the relation between investment in the total market. In the total market, 290 companies, for example, if we say in Sri Lanka stock market 290 companies, first identify what these relationships are between 290 companies. So you might identify the positive correlation companies separate. All the industry companies are positively correlated, very sure. Negative correlated, there may be some businesses negatively correlated. Third, no correlation. After you identify that, your diversification objective will come. Which one I have to invest? Diversification strategy says positively correlated if you invest. Are you sufficiently diversifying or not sufficiently diversifying? The answer is no. If I put all my 10 million rupees in bank stocks, I put the entire 10 million into, say, 10 banks. I am going to invest in 10 listed banks. Is it the right thing? Under portfolio management theories, it says, if you are investing entire 10 million into banks, you are not sufficiently diversified. So what do? I don't put the entire money into positively related stocks. I might put some money. I can put 2 million, 3 million. Don't put 10 million. 10 million needs to be broken into many investment types, many relationship types. So the recommendation of this theory, portfolio management and diversification, it says, always remember your priority of investments negatively correlated. First one, negatively correlated. Second one, no relationship. Third one, positively correlated. So when you are allocating your 10 million investments or monies, please allocate among, first, allocate among negative. Second, no relationship. Third, positive. Which means you might identify some companies which are negatively correlated. So put, say, 5 million there. Out of 10 million, 5 million there. Balance 5 million, put 3 million here. Another 2 million, put it to positive. You can invest. Not that you can't invest in positively correlated investments. You can. But try to reduce much as possible. Why? What is the logic here? If the banks are going to perform badly, due to some reason, if the banks are not going to perform good, they are loss-making, or profits are dropping, don't put your 10 million into positive relationship, all the banks. Why? All the banks lose money, your investment lose money. So what do? Put money into negatively correlated. Why? Even if one sector doesn't do well, other sector does well. One sector doesn't do well, other sector does. Now take the example of companies. One product or one service providing companies. And many business companies. Example, say John Keys. Are they working on one product and one service? Many products and many services. John Keys. Many products, many services. They are into hotel industry, they are into finance industry, they are into properties, they are into retail, they are into transportation, they are into various types. Not one business nature. Many. Diversified. They are well diversified. What is the advantage? Even if one sector doesn't do well, other sectors perform. Maybe today's context, tourism doesn't work. Nobody is in the hotels. Tourism is not working. The hotels, maybe nobody is in the hotel. No income for the hotels. But there may be another segment which may be performing. Right? It can be bank, it can be retail, supermarkets. They must be performing. Their products are being sold. So what do you have to understand? Even at the crisis situation, some products or some services are performing well, some may not be doing well. But when you are diversified, you don't have to worry. Why? Your profits are balanced. But if you say, no, I have all my investments into one product, one service company. I am only a hotel company. I have 5 hotels. I have 5 hotels, different cities. I have 5 hotels. What is the problem? At this context, all 5 hotels perform badly. Next 6 months, they will not be performing. They will not make profits. They will lose money. So what is going to happen? All positively correlated stocks, you lose money. You need to get this point clear. Diversification, please do negatively correlated investments. Say John Keys, property one side, banks one side, hotel industry one side, retail segment one side. They may not be either negatively correlated or no relationship. So you are in a better wicket, especially at a bad situation or recession times. right? And every country at this moment expecting a recession or very lower growth. So all of us are going to face that reality. We are not going to escape from anything. So if you are diversified, you are better off comparatively, rather than depending on one product or one service. Keep that in mind. I'm sure while we do this, the thing what we lose, the online thing, generally the little drawback is that there is no interaction from your end where you can ask questions or clarify things which I explained. So I believe that's something concerned at this moment. You might, now since the first class, you could take each topic, you can write once you watch this couple of times, you have enough question to ask. I would request you to write down all that, right? We will have a situation maybe later on where we could do that clarification part in a different technology. I think that could be done, right? So where we will clarify things. So it's my humble request that otherwise just watching TV kind of story should not work. You better have your own note where you write down the questions, whatever I'm explaining, right? So you will have definitely questions, right? That's something we can't do at this moment. So you write down all the questions. So when we get a chance to clarify, definitely I will be able to help you on that, okay? Then page number 3, we discussed about diversification. Next 2-3 pages explains you that calculation are parts on negative correlation, positive correlation, statistical part, right? Even though it's from the exam point of view, it's not so serious questioning on that, but you need to know something about that, so better you read the pages. Then page number 7, investors, indifference curve. Indifference curve. Investors indifference curve, it's in page number 7. Curve, graph, you will see that it's a relation between risk and return. Risk and return. And the graph like this. Not a straight line, it's a curve. It's a curve. You can see that dotted line. Risk and return, relationship between these two. The curve is about investors' preferences about the investments, investors' preference about investments. Generally, we know that risk and return have a positive relationship. That's why this goes up. When you say the risk is higher in any investment, you expect higher return. Similarly, when the risk is lower in any investment, your return comes down, the expected return comes down. So it's a positive relationship curve we can understand here. So what is the investor indifference curve? If you take point C and point B, as an investor, you being an investor, which point you would prefer? If you say these are the investment products available in the market, what investment you prefer? Are you preferring C investment or B investment? What is the difference between C and B? At this point, C, your risk levels are here, whatever number, and return levels are here. If you take point B, same return level, but you take higher risk. So as an investor, do you like B or C? The answer is C is preferred, right, compared to B. Compared to B. C is preferred compared to B. Why? C gives you return at a lower risk. B gives same return at higher risk. So as an investor, I would like to reduce my risk and getting a return. C is preferred. If I take B and A, point A and B, which one you prefer? Which one? A or B? A, you will see that you get this is the return or risk, that's the return. B, same risk level, you get a lower return. Here you get this level of risk, you get risk return. Same B point, at this point of risk, you get lower return. So which one you prefer, A or B? A. A is preferred. Because A gives you higher return at the same level of risk compared to B. So generally as an investor, you will see all the points in this curve, you prefer compared to other points outside that curve. So you prefer all the points in the curve. This curve is called investor's indifference curve. Investor's indifference curve. Why? At these points, investor's point of view is return satisfaction is same. If I put it this way, we compare these two. A and B we compare, C and B we compare. Tell me, A and C, which is better? A and C, which is better? Both are in the curve. Both are in the curve. A and C, both are in the curve. A point, high risk, high return. C point, comparatively lower risk, lower return. So my question is, which is better? A is better, C is better. You can't answer. Why? All that points in the curve, even though they give higher risk, different risk and different return, overall, your satisfaction point of view are same. You need to understand that. If I simply ask you, this is my example generally I give, food or meal, any meal. The meal could be brought at nearby shop for 200 rupees. A decent lunch pack for 200 rupees. Similarly, you go to a restaurant and buy the same or similar lunch, say 500 rupees. Or maybe you go to another better place, a hotel, and you will be charged 1,000 rupees and then you get meal. So when you see that, one is 1,000, one is 500, one is 200. Which meal is better? Your mind immediately says 1,000 is better. But for that, how much you are paying? You are not paying 200, you are paying 1,000. So the quality and the service and the environment, whatever you are going to get for 1,000, you don't get it for 200. But for that, you pay only 200, the other one you pay 1,000. So do you understand that that is your utilization, satisfaction levels? So you can't compare all three and say 1,000 is better or 200 is better. You can't. All are equal. Similarly, investments also, all these points, even though risk return mix is different, all gives you same satisfaction. But when you say A and B, different. C and B, different. One is better than the other one. But all the points here, not same. Sorry, not different, they are same. Which means you might think I am a little risky taker. I am not a risk taker. If I am not a risk taker, I might go down. I am a risk taker, I might go here. So depends on my preference of risk, I decide it. But all the points in the curve are giving you same utility. That's why it's called investor's indifference. Investors are not different between these investment opportunities. Okay? So please keep in mind, that gives you the notes also, page number 7. You can read it out. Read it out. Then page number 9. Page number 9. So please look at this graph, page number 9. You might look at page number 9. What is the graph? Earlier we looked at from investor point of view. We looked at from investor point of view what the investor would expect. What the investor would expect the investment products in the market to be. Based on the risk and return, he expects a kind of investment in the market. That's what we draw in the investor indifference curve. Here we are talking about the investments available in the market. Investments available in the market. Investments available in the market. Not that what you want, what you expect. What is available in the market? What is available in the markets are all these investment types, opportunities. And you will realize there are various investment products in the market giving a characteristic of return and risk. You might take a fixed deposit or share market or debenture, any type of investment, there is some relationship. There is a risk and return. X investment will give you some risk and higher return. Y will give you lower risk, lower return. So you have enough products in the market. So what they say, all the points in the curve, are the products or the investments available in the market which gives similar again utility. Similar utility. That means they are equal. Even though they can give higher risk, higher return, but overall they are equal. Like what I told you, 200 rupees lunch, 1000 rupee lunch. They are not, you might think they are not equal, but they are equal in terms of utility. Where 200 rupees also you get lunch, 1000 also you get lunch. So quality, environment, service differs. So you can't say 1000 rupees anybody has paid for lunch, you can't say he's full, he could have bought it for 200. No. For that 1000 he gets different service, different quality. Similarly for 200 person you can't say 200 rupees you have got a cheaper product. No. For that 200 you have got reasonable product. So please get that point clear. So even in the market, there are enough investments available in the market, they are available here. All the points in the curve are efficient. All the products in the market which are efficient. Efficient means they give same utility. If they are giving same utility, all are in that curve. This is called efficient frontier. Only the curve, not the points here. These are the product. You might have a deposit like this. Here's a deposit, here's a deposit. Or debenture, or stock you might have here. But they are sometimes lower. Compared to these, all products here are the best ones. Best products, best return, best risk. For that risk, that's the best return you can get. These are the ones. I believe that you are understanding that. These are available in the market. Available in the market. Best products available in the market are called efficient frontier. Efficient frontier. So now we have got two curves. One is investor's indifference curve. Other one is efficient frontier. One is investor indifference curve. Other one is efficient frontier. So you need to be very clear. One is expected by the investor. One is the investor's point of view. One curve is investor's point of view. Other one is market. Available in the market. Available in the market. So investors indifference curve. In the market, best ones are efficient frontier. So you need to understand that there are two things. One is investor indifference curve. Other one is available in the market, efficient frontier. In other words, another perspective, this is a demand, this is a supply. As investors in the market, they are expecting this should be the investment with risk and return. This is called indifference curve. What I want? As a customer, I want. Efficient frontier is what is available in the market. So please note that two aspects. One is demand, other one is supply. Page number 9. Again, page number 9, the graph. Expected return and risk. You might see the graph. Second half of the page, you have the graph. You can see that. Different indifference curves. You might see that we have brought both curves, investor indifference curve and efficient frontier in one graph. Now see, one is from investor's perception, what should be the products or the investment products available or should be available in the market. It's expectation, not that he is saying that is there. They are expecting it should be there. Other one is what is available in the market. There are enough deposit or investments available in the market. These are available. This is what you want. Now tell me, if you take one by one, indifference curve A. Indifference curve A, B, C, D. There are 4 indifference curves. From the investor point of view, which one would like to have? Which one you would like to have? If you are the investor, which one you prefer? A, B, C, D. Definitely A. Why? at this point, at this risk level, A will give you higher return compared to B, compared to C, compared to D. A investments give you higher return compared to all other indifferent curves. So you prefer A. But the question is, even though you like it, do you have products available in the market to satisfy your A or your expectation? I'm sure all of us have expectation during this period. When we are at home, we have enough expectation. We would like to have that food, we would like to have this entertainment, we would like to have this, all our expectation. But at present condition, are we getting all that? No. Not available in the market. Not possible in the market. Same thing, A, even though we like it, we like that investments to be available in the market, it's not available in the market. So A is out. B, we again want that to be in the market, not in the market. C and D, both available in the market. We also want it, that's available in the market. Now which one we prefer, C or D? At this point, if you take C and D, which gives you the higher return? At the same risk level, which gives you higher return? C. So compared to D, C is preferred. C products are preferred. So you prefer C. Is it available in the market? What you want that products with that investment risk and return? Yes. This line is efficient frontier. That touches here. All the products available in the market is here marked. Best ones are this curve, efficient frontier, supply. So out of the best is efficient frontier, which is available in the market. So please note, point M is the point at which what you want, what is available in the market, both meets. So you can do a transaction at this point. All these products, dotted points here, are available, but no one wants. Why? Out of that, best ones are in this curve. So I would like that curve than these points. So please understand, this is the two types of, or two sides of it. One is investor's point, that is you and me, our expected curve. That should be available. Market availability is efficient frontier. So efficient frontier and investor indifference curve meets at one point, that's called point M, transaction takes place. A and B, even though we like it, not in the market. C, D comparatively, D is not good as C, so we don't want D. So please keep that in mind. Risk-free investments. Just to understand this point, all these curves touches here, which means risk is zero, this point you have a return. Risk is zero, there is a return. Those are risk-free investments. Risk-free investment. Government securities, treasury bill, treasury bonds. No risk, zero risk, you get return. So I believe that this graph explains what we want to discuss. Page number 9 we discussed now. Then page number 11. Page number 11. Basically that touched upon the same thing what we discussed here. The point M. Page number 11. I draw the graph again. So this is the point what we discussed earlier, M point. So over the period in the market, when you look at these graphs, what we discussed, indifference curve and efficient frontier, you will see that at the end result, you will have the products what is in that line. So this is a basically line called capital market line. Capital market line. Please note that this is called capital market line. These are the investments available in the market. And mostly the transaction will take place with the customer. Risk-free investments, where no risk, you get a return. That's why it's risk-free investment. And these all the products are what is available and where people can trade. So please note that this is capital market line. So if I remove the efficient frontier, the capital market line becomes new efficient frontier. New efficient frontier. These are the best products available in the market. Best products available in the market. So please note, new efficient frontier is a straight line. It's a straight line. This had been tested in exam, so you need to be very clear. New efficient frontier is the products available in the market which are efficient products. Efficient means risk and return when you compare, they are the best products, give you the, with a reasonable risk, higher return. So you are very much happy. So this is available in the market. Okay? So please note, page number 11. Page number 11. Then there are a few pages, that's for your self-understanding, you can read it out. Then we are moving into page number 15, 16. Page number 15, 16. Page 15 stroke 16. It's about the should companies diversify? At the beginning when we started, we said we have to, at the beginning we said we have to, at the beginning we said we have to do what you call diversification. At the beginning we mentioned that we need to do diversification. Why? To reduce risk. To reduce risk. We don't put all our money into one basket. We have to divide the money or allocation to many investment opportunities. Even as a country, we don't depend on one sector. We have to have many sectors so that even if one sector doesn't work, specific circumstances, we are better off with other sectors. Otherwise, we depend too much from one sector and one sector doesn't do well, we lose money. So that's what we learned in the morning. Now, should company diversify? So we said at the beginning that we have to diversify to reduce risk. Now the question comes, should company diversify? There are different views. There is two sets of people. One set of people say that we have to diversify, that's what in the morning we discussed, to reduce risk. But there is another view, another school of thought, which says that your diversification may not be necessary to a large extent. If you go to diversify too much, you are in trouble. If you are diversifying too much, you are in trouble. So there is another view. People are saying that, yes, you have to diversify, but when you go to do diversification haphazardly or blindly without having enough technical expertise, you might not succeed, you lose. So that's basically the question here. Should company diversify too much? There are reasons. One, they ask the question, generally, you are good at what? As a company, as a business, you are good at what? You are good at what you know now. If you are a what you call biscuit manufacturing company, you are very much experienced and knowledgeable and come out with many challenges from biscuit industry. You know in and out of biscuits. You know what customers want, what the taste, how people change in terms of taste, what quality you have to maintain, what cost involved, what is the production mix. All you know, in and out, expertise. You are the expert of subject. You are the expert of what? Manufacturing biscuits. If you are doing that business of biscuit manufacturing, you want to diversify. If you want to diversify, are you going to diversify into manufacturing shoes? It's true, it's a diversification. Why? Even if the people don't want to eat biscuits and people stop using biscuit using, at least you will shift to another one. People anyway will wear shoes. So you have another demand for shoes. So you think, okay, I better manufacture shoes. I do manufacturing a biscuit one side, I will do the shoe manufacturing. It's diversifying. The question comes, at the beginning I said, if you are a biscuit manufacturing company, your expertise in what? Biscuit manufacturing. You are not expert in manufacturing shoes. And biscuit and shoes are not the same thing. Two different things. So that is what they say, since you are not expertise or not having expertise in certain other manufacturing products, your diversification will not succeed. For namesake we can say, we are diversified. We have 1,000 business. Or we have 10 companies, 10 businesses. 2, yes, you are. But are they doing good? Doing well? No. Why? You can't be. It's very difficult. You are not expert in that. So one other thing why they say don't diversify too much. Don't diversify too much because you don't, I'm just giving summary form, it's in the tute anyway, you don't have expertise. You don't have expertise. Even though you like to diversify, you don't have expertise. That is one. Second, generally, which one you can grow faster? Now all of us, we are finance professionals, all studies chartered, and you are almost to complete chartered. Once you qualify your chartered, your background you look at, you have come a long way studying very difficult subjects of chartered and going through different hardships, working harder, and you work late, sacrifice a lot of personal things and achieve everything, and you come long way. So all of you all know that you have done an extreme amount of commitment to achieve something in big. That's what all of us have gone through this. After you come to this level and you qualify yourself, in a 6 months or 1 year you're done, you're qualified chartered accountant, and your experience is on chartered auditing, tax, corporate finance, anything it could be, you are mastering on some other things, and auditing, all you got. Are you going to start working as marketing professional? Are you going to work as some production work? No. Why? You are going to grow very fast only if you are going on your track. Because you are come a long way in that area. So you are very much talented and you are now waiting to harvest your investment. Where you will grow faster in the business or the knowledge or the expertise which you are good at. So you need to understand, even in companies or businesses, you are going to grow faster only if you do what you know. You become chartered accountant and start saying, I'm going to work as a production engineer, or I'm going to work as a marketing manager. There is no relationship. Not that it's a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. But which one take you faster in growing yourself? Definitely finance profession. So that is what we have to say, that growth limited. If you diversify, your growth is limited. You cannot grow the way you could be in your own core business. You can't grow in unknown businesses. Biscuit manufacturing, you go to different markets, different cities, different countries, you succeed. Why? You are talented. And shoe manufacturing, not the same. It's a different thing. Your growth is not that you can't achieve growth. It is slower than the biscuit. I believe that you understand. Third, if you are going to, it's in page number 16. If it's page number 16, third, say the shareholders, this is a company, and you have shareholders. They all are shareholders here. And you are, say, biscuit manufacturing. In order to diversify, you invest in another company, shoe manufacturing. And you want to invest in hotel. And you want to invest in hospital. You are investing. All are diversifying strategies you have invested. Now tell me, why do you do that? What is the primary objective of companies? What is the primary objective? To maximize shareholder wealth. End of the day, all the businesses in the world do what? Maximize shareholder wealth. In order to do that, only we do everything. Our all strategies work for that objective. If that is the case, if you say, I want to get into a hospital, shoe manufacturing, hotel, why do you do that? You want to maximize shareholder wealth by diversifying into various businesses. Good thing. You are doing a good thing. But if the shareholders can diversify their investments by investing in a hospital share market company, hotel company, they invest separately. If they can do that, do you need to diversify? If they want diversification, do they have to come through you, or they can do directly to hospital, directly to hotel, hospital, all these shareholders invest directly. Why should they invest in you? You invest in all these companies. Do you have to do that? No need. You don't need to do that. So the shareholders would say, please don't do this diversification. I am comfortable going in diversification. So please note, shareholders diversification easier than company diversifying. Shareholder can diversify. So please note that. Fourth, when you diversify too much, you are under threat of takeovers. Why? There are many companies you have. You will be valued total company. Sometimes you are one of the segment are loss making. That disturb the entire value of your group. And your value of the group comes down. One business doesn't do well, entire group value comes down. That will be a threat for someone to take over your company. Threat for you, someone will take over your company. Why? Your value is low. So that is the reason where you need to understand more diversification can be a problem. So please note, in the morning we discussed diversification reduces risk, which means you invest in various investments, good thing. But too much diversification, not good. Please study that properly and diversify. More than level of diversification, have a problem. You would have seen some people saying, I am doing chartered, I am doing engineering, I am doing marketing, I am doing IT, I am doing law. Diversification. But is it right? Do you need to do that? What is your focus? What is your career? Not clear. Yes, you have some knowledge extra, that's good. You have a law, fine, okay, you are law and chartered, or engineering chartered, they are a combination. But you don't want to have everything. Just for name, I have 10 qualifications. So what? Your wish, no one is going to complain, but what's your purpose? Right? So please note that too much of diversification is not something recommendable. If you are doing it, study that properly and do the diversification. Thank you.